All right, I'm sure you've seen a lot of these pictures. You guys could tell me what, if you want to build one of these for your layout.
I want one of those for a new smoker.
This would be probably the hardest thing to build, that concrete block with the metal
A saddle.
up here. Yeah.
Get a couple of H steel beams from Plastruck, cut them on the curve, a thin piece of double aught 5 styrene would lay right in there on top of a solid block of whatever.
But it's interesting because often you see the concrete itself is shaped to be the saddle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's all kinds of different installations for those things. The Walters propane tank kit has just got what looks like a solid concrete shape to follow the curvature of the tank. So. That's a propane filling station. You can see all the portable tanks up there that be taken to homes and farms for providing propane gas for stoves and burners, furnaces, heaters and stuff. The vertical there on the right side, those hoses, that's the where you would empty out the tank cars that came in. That would be and the building has got the pumps in it for pumping out. You stick those hoses down in the tank cars and basically suck out with the pump the gasoline. If you get propane, you'd be hooking up a high pressure hose to the outlet on the bottom of the tank car. So it's still used the pump to move it.
I think this is the track right here.
Yep, it is.
So this would be for a above, you can remove the gas from above or below. And I think this is for removing above.
Yeah, and that's called a standpipe. You'll see them right next to the tracks, and the pump house and the storage facilities can be blocks away. You just would have a pipe running from the bottom of that standpipe to the pump house. And then from there to
your tanks could be on the background.
Yes.
Another view of the same thing as the first one.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a different one here.
Yes, you're looking at the dock for the truck to back up to load up those horizontal tanks or those vertical tanks to take them out after they've been filled.
This is kind of an interesting tank here because it doesn't have the normal end on it. Normally the ends on them are round, you know what I'm saying? This looks like it's concave.
Hemispherical.
Actually, it looks inset.
Yeah. But I don't know that I've ever seen that for LP. I'm not sure that's an LP tank. This guy may be both a LP and regular fuel.
A lot of the oil jobbers in the Midwest handled regular, gasoline, diesel, kerosene, etc., and then they added propane as it became or LPG as it became a commodity that they could sell.
It could also just be a optical illusion that it's flat.
Mm-hmm.
This is the same one from a different angle. So you see, it does look different, doesn't it?
Yes. Guess we'll just have to go out and take more photos of LP tanks.
But the Walthers one has these two big vents on it, just like this.
Mm-hmm.
So that probably is an LP tank. The other one is probably the problem with the photo.
Or it could be an anhydrous ammonia tank. Because if this is a farm service type facility, they might be getting anhydrous ammonia also in. They store almost the exact same type of tank, and then they would ship it out for fertilizer applications.
Well, actually, that's a different tank.
Think so?
Mhm.
Yeah, but the tank we've been looking at, which has the curious end to it, is hidden by the building in this picture.
Right here,
Yes.
that's the hidden tank.
Right,
Yes.
yeah.
Yep.
This is, okay. The pipes are on this one. So that's this,
Mhm. It looks like another set of pipes standing up behind it, so.
So
Yep.
here's one that's, you're gonna empty the tank from the car from the bottom. But in the background is kind of interesting is the stockyard.
Yep, the loading chute for the stock pens.
It's pretty, that dates it quite a ways into the past.
It's also the end of the line for that track.
Yeah, and they think that wheel stop is going to do the job.
Well, you
Mhm.
know, there's still a pretty good set of wires up here.
Yep,
I would date that photo in the, at least in the pre-50s or somewhere in that area.
very late forties or early fifties would be my guess.
Because LP didn't get very popular until really the late 40s, I would think.
Well, and the same with anhydrous ammonia. It was about 47, 48 before it was being used a lot, so.
I remember on the farm, we didn't see it at all when I don't think we saw it before the 50s.
What does anhydrous ammonia mean?
What does it mean? It's
Yeah,
it's a
Well,
fertilizer.
anhydrous just means it's no water, right?
It's under pressure. Delivered in pressurized tanks. And the farmers will run it from the pressurized tanks on and they inject it into the soil to place nitrogen into the soil.
oh, okay.
It's a source of nitrogen. Sometimes they apply it in the fall, other times early in the spring.
Okay.
Yes,
It's
I need to look it up.
literally, it's,
Anhydrous means no water.
yeah.
I will
Anhydrous
be
means no
Googling it.
water.
Okay, here's an underground one. Here's the, you know, the tank car. And it doesn't
Mhm.
take much to model that. Now there's one that is, they take it out of the top of the tank. That's in Dardanelle, Arkansas. That's on the DNR Railroad, Dardanelle and Russellville Railroad. And that's how they do it.
Mhm.
I would say that building one of those with all three pipes going into there, that would be quite a modeling experience.
Yep, a lot of wire and unions and junctions, et cetera, and you can see coming out of the sides of that dome, that's a high pressure tank car. And those would be high pressure outlets coming out, so.
Well, you know, it takes three. I think you would, I think you'd find that two of these are the gas leaving, and one of them is that where they're putting pressure in. Doesn't, on this picture, doesn't really show it quite like that. It shows just two pipes, but most of them are run with three pipes.
Yeah, because you have to inject something to keep the pressure up, to keep the get the gas out of the tank.
Yeah.
Now notice how that tank car has got the ends have got a little convection to a curve to them, but they're inset
Yeah.
with the rivet line. Is that an insulated tank car?
Yeah, I think so.
Is that an insulated tank car?
Yeah.
Is that an insulated tank car? 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 Is
Yes, look at the top, look at the dome,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll unload it from the top because of the fixture they have here. So I thought I'd throw in a few trucks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, notice the middle one's got a rack on the side to carry those vertical tanks for delivery to homes and businesses.
I would say, Doug, that people started using them for the kitchen stove is before probably they used them for the heating stove.
Yep, I can remember my grandparents, they just had a little space heater in the house they lived in, and they had a gas stove, and it was fed off of the, it was called bottled gas. And the stand had held two of those vertical bottles and regulators on each. So if one ran out, the other one was there to run off, and they would give a call, and the fellow would come out with his truck and he'd change out the empty one for a full one. I've also seen them at various farms for, heaters and hog confinements and things of that nature. So, but most people today now have gone to the big, huge 500-gallon or 1,000-gallon horizontal tanks. Those vertical ones are, I can't remember if they're 40-pound or 80-pound bottles. I think 80-pound bottles. So
Those on the truck like that are about 100 pounds.
Yeah,
100 pounds, okay.
Yeah,
I
think
never had to move one, so I don't know.
Yeah.
they used to make them in two sizes. Maybe they still do.
oh, they make them in all sizes.
So I don't know whether Greg, you ever built yours or not. That's how mine looks. The unloading platform.
No, I haven't built mine yet, but that looks familiar. I knew what it was when I saw it.
That's an interesting project, that little kit is. So I decided that I needed something to haul my tanks. So I built a truck to haul my tank, and you see where I got the idea. I can go into the casket business now if I want to.
Those are vaults, actually, burial vaults.
Burial
Probably will,
vaults, yep.
probably
Cement
will,
vaults.
probably made by Wilbert.
Most likely, and most of the propane dealers around here have got a little trailer with the same type of overhead, but the trailer is got a U shape split around from the wheels so that the tank hangs between the two wheels. So it rides a lot lower. So,
Actually, I've never seen an LP operation with a truck like that. I
Mm-mm.
just, the only time I've ever seen it is when they have the cement, not caskets, but the vault. So here's my LP truck that I built. And I used the one there from White Mountain as my idea
Yeah.
on how to build it.
those are some photos I think I shared with you that I found. White Mountain up in Vermont and in New Hampshire. But
Yeah, the woman up there, back when I was doing modeler, I contacted her and she sent me just a whole bunch of that, in which has been put out in the market. A lot of people have seen what I have, what she sent me. So that's my my operation there.
looks pretty good. Nice, compact.
I didn't have much room. Okay, so much for that. I'll go to some. So I was looking at some of these refrigerator cars, and I'm sure that if Clark would have been interested, why he could have told us all about the doors and things like that, which I know Doug can. But every car was not used for everything. right, Doug?
Correct, yes.
For example, the one on the top left with a circulating fan, probably not used for meat.
Probably not. One has got a full height door and two's got the circulating fan. Three, it's 40 feet long. Four, it's steel sided instead of still wood. And so they didn't have the full height doors on most meat reefers because they had the beef, they had the rails in there for hanging the meat from. And the smaller the door opening, the less cold air you would lose. The circulating fans were not, meat packers did not like them because the moving air would tend to dry out the meat, which made it less desirable. So the meat reefers did not have circulating fans. Most meat packers stayed with 36-foot cars and wood-sided cars up until the end of moving refrigerated meat by rail. They felt the wood was better insulated, and the 36-foot car, the center could get cold without the fan. A 40-foot car had to have the fan to get the center cold enough to retain the temperatures from just the ambient air moving around. So that's
So the bottom two cars are Illinois Central, which I would bet you, probably, well, I know from reading about it, the vast majority of the Illinois Central refrigerators were used in the banana business.
if they had green lettering, they were. I'm not sure about the black lettered cars. So, but I know the ones that had green lettering were all banana service. And they shipped a tremendous amount of bananas out of New Orleans.
I believe that silver car represents an experimental aluminum sided refrigerator. Because the Illinois Central had at least one of those. I've got pictures of it.
Yeah, I think the banana business is kind of an interesting business. So I've collected whatever Illinois Central cars I can come up with. Now there is one with a circulating fan.
And that's the aluminum car.
Yep. That would be a produce car.
It is, but it is aluminum, or looks like aluminum with green lettering on it. So,
It-
you know,
Well, it certainly is aluminum. The stripe is green. The rest of the lettering looks to be black.
Yep.
yeah, it could be black, yeah.
But even in banana service, they would have the fan. So,
The next to the door, it seems to have a routing statement like when empty, return to. But I
Yeah.
can't make
Right
it out.
here, right in this area.
yep.
Well, let me look at my pictures real quick.
It's new enough, it's a recent enough picture that it had an ACI label, so it's late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I hadn't looked at that. Oops. It looks like a typical meat car, but they call it dairy products, so I guess.
Yep.
Okay, that I had just happened to have a blow up of that. And that black square to the left of it appears to have a couple of gauges, probably temperature gauges. And the lettering says, when empty, return to Illinois Central for banana loading.
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
The builder was Illinois Central in Macomb, Mississippi. And the upper left-hand side, it says stage icing, convertible bulkheads, circulating fans.
Your picture must be very good. Huh?
Well, I've got several pictures of it.
That particular car?
Got 7 pictures of this Illinois Central 51,000.
Yeah, probably the first of the series, wasn't it?
they may have only had one.
And that's a possibility, I suppose.
That's the only one I've got in the 51,000 number range, though.
So here's a few M and St. L cars. These might have come from you, Doug. I don't think.
Yeah, that one's looking familiar.
Were those used in the meat business because of where they were at generally?
No, those are leased URTC cars, which would be typically 40-foot. Emmett St. L served a lot of canneries,
Uh,
canned goods. They served, things, some pickle factories and some, other things like that. So they might have been used for grocery, dairy, many other things. I realize that's got a little bit shorter door on it, but that looks like a 40-foot fish belly car.
look underneath the car, right underneath the door here. It's almost like
Yeah.
there's something in there, right?
That have had a heater?
Well, it's got a fish belly type frame, but this must be heaters or something to make all of this area in here. I don't know. Maybe it's something else.
Is that something sitting on the ground on the backside of the car?
Could be.
Could
Oh,
be.
yeah, that might be it. Yeah.
Yeah, see
Yeah,
the
I
pole
think that's
here?
it. I just called up the photo and looking at it.
I'll
And
bet
that
you it's
looks
just,
like something sitting in the snow behind the car.
yeah, see the pole here, probably the same thing. Right here.
Yeah.
Once again, there's some sort of stenciled statement to the left side of the car next to the grab irons.
Right here.
Yes.
Can
And
you enlarge the picture, Ron?
It's as big as I can make it on this.
Okay.
I would think that it must not be all that clear. Otherwise, we would have been able to see it. I wouldn't know where to find it in the computer now to, I could enlarge the original, but I don't know where to find it right now. Here's another one. Is that one really white that way?
no, more likely yellow.
I didn't think that Emmett St. L ever had a white one.
No, they were all a yellow.
But those been boxcar red ends on it?
Yes. Black under frame. I think it was a black roof. A boxcar red ends. Seems to me I know a guy who wrote an article that was published in the I think it was Chicago Northwestern Modeler on
Yeah.
Emmett St. L reefers. It's got all that information in it.
I know, I thought about putting it out today, but I didn't. I still have it, of course.
Well, it should be on your computer because that was the electronic version that was
Yeah,
sent
well,
out.
it definitely is on the computer. I suspect this is your thumb here.
No, I don't think it's my thumb, but I do recognize the photo.
It's his big toe.
Good picture of how the ice hatches should look.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
For the Wilson, that's a Wilson meat reefer car. And of course, the ice hatchers are a little different from what you'd see on a PFE or other reefer. Those buried by the builder.
Yeah, this one, they don't look like they have anything kind of a lock. They just slip over this eye here. You could put
Yeah.
a pin in there if you wanted to.
Well, look on the other side of that walkway. Is that a hasp or something that's caught in there? I can't.
Which one you're looking at? This one
No, on the other side of the walkway on the same car.
over here.
Yeah. No, I guess it's just that bracket down over the loop,
Yeah,
but obviously you could put a hasp or even a padlock on there if you wanted to.
Yeah.
From the looks of things.
this is kind of an interesting detail of the end of the
Yeah, the running board.
running board, which is different than this one.
Yep.
Well, it looks like it's different. It may not be, but you know, that is raised quite high off the roof. Looks like almost you know, something like 3x3 or something like that.
Mm-hmm. But that roof is still pitched, so it would have to be at an angle to fit on there.
Yeah. Yeah, here's some old cars. I would almost bet these all came from you.
Yeah, that's possible. That's a Wilson meat reefer. Next to it's a North American meat reefer that's in leased service. Um, Yeah, North American was they took over the Mather fleet in 1958, but they also had other cars, and they were basically a leasing company. And there's a Hormel car that's leased from North American. The NADX is a North American reporting mark.
That would be a 40-foot car, a steel car,
Yes.
the end of the era.
And that is it's a Union refrigerator car that the branch line model would match this car for the reefer, and that one's leased to Morel, the MRX reporting marks.
Return to Ottumwa, Iowa.
Yep, that's where the Morel plant was located. They built a second one in Sioux Falls, but not in the, it was not built in the 30s, it was built in the, I think the 50s. So the only Morel plant in the country was the one in Ottumwa at the time that this car was probably put in use. Because June 1928 is the date of this photograph.
Look at the ice hatches up here. Look how
Yep.
different they are than other. I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah, they've got you got almost a full handrail around the top of them, and then they got the plug that's fastened to the hatch cover. So when you open it up, you're also pulling the plug out, the insulation plug, which looks like a giant seat cushion. And you notice the reporting mark's a little different there. That's an MORX. Still a Morel, that's a 40-foot car. They did lease a lot of Mather reefers. That was pretty much who Morel used. The Mather did offer a 40-foot reefer. So
That's as big as I can make that. But that's one of, I know there wasn't many of those, but that's a combination one. Refrigerator and poultry car.
yes, that's I think that photo dates from about 1928. I believe it was published in a Rock Island company magazine.
It didn't prove very popular. They made a few of them and then
They were very late addition to the poultry movement, probably among some of the last cars that were produced. And the idea was half of was refrigerator car. The attendant who rode those cars was responsible for collecting the eggs and feeding the poultry, disposing of the ones that died. The attendant got to keep the eggs and was allowed to sell them. And the combination car was developed to one, store the eggs, but also as they were picking up live poultry, they also would be picking up dressed poultry from probably the same location as well as eggs, and they could be delivered in a refrigerated car. And that was partly as the traffic was diminishing, they tried to do the combine car.
I'm not sure the first word, it says Center, Kansas, whatever the first word is, it's,
Smith.
okay.
Doug, you mean those cars had somebody riding on them?
Yes. Every poultry car, the center area was the attendant's room. It came with
Okay.
a cot, a stove. It had a feed bunk in the floor for storing feed for the chickens and had a water tank overhead for providing water. And there would be a barrel for mixing the feed and water to make the mash that was fed by the chickens. And then there was an aisle that went down the center of the car from both sides of the attendant's cabin. And that's how the attendant accessed the cages and the feeding troughs and water troughs in each of those cages. There would be about 7 layers of cages on each side of that center aisle. And that's what you see on the
Yeah,
outside.
how many birds?
What was that?
How many birds would that handle?
Uh, Depending on the birds you were handling, you could put about 4,500 chickens, maybe 6,000 pigeons. So,
Wow. And as I
Oh,
seem to recall, maybe in some emails that we exchanged as a group early on in Ron starting us up when we were talking about poultry cars, that the attendant's room was called a stateroom.
yes,
A
yes.
a little different than a stateroom on the QE2.
Yeah,
It
this
is,
area here is where the feed was down here. And
It
up
is-
Yeah,
here
that's
would have
that
been
box
the water.
underneath is where the feed and up above was where the water tank.
and isn't that the attendant's name painted above the door?
No, that's the name of the car.
Oh, the car had a name.
The car had a name. They also had a number, but most of the cars were named. They were named after some sort of a bird or a location. Some were named after individuals. But yeah, most of them had names, not everyone. And some of the photos I found, the names are faded to where you can't identify. But yeah, of course, the attendant stateroom was also how the birds entered and exited the car. And they could not carry a cage inside and transfer them. They had to carry them in hanging by their legs in your hand and walk down the aisle and stuff them in the cage they were going into. So the farmer who was selling the birds to the carrier, they would back up his car or truck to that doorway in the middle, or he'd stack his cages up there, pull the birds out of his cages and give them to the attendant who would walk them down the aisle and put them in the cage. That way the farmer got his poultry cages back. Otherwise they disappeared and never returned. So you had those live birds fluttering wings and shedding feathers right over your bed as they were being loaded.
They were shedding more than feathers.
Well, yeah.
Is that what they call a feather bed?
Yeah. Feather bedding, yes. So
I had no idea.
I have a whole presentation on poultry cars if you're
I'll
interested, Ken.
bet
Yeah, we
you
ought to
do.
see it.
I would like to see that. Actually, I'm serious. Doug, that would be neat.
Here's some old, if there's anybody old enough, they know that these are old Varney cars.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have a few of these cars. I like, I like old stuff.
The Varney cars were fairly decent cars especially for the time. They were great.
And those were lithographed sides. Those weren't stamped. That's true lithography.
Mm-hmm.
I had 2 of these and I changed the number on one of them. I took it to the show and the guy says, "Oh, I like that number because I know I've not got that." I said, "You better look close because it's not it killed my sale, but I don't want to be dishonest about it."
Yeah, ART was jointly owned by the Mopac and Wabash. They based in St. Louis. They served primarily the produce serving valleys of Texas and south central Colorado. So you had a lot of ART cars coming up from the Rio Grande Valley of Texas and from the San Luis Valley of southern central Colorado. So they hauled a lot of produce, potatoes, you know, fruit off of trees and things like that.
Grapefruit.
The difference between Varney and Athearn would make a series with all different numbers, but I don't think Varney ever did that. They had one number, that was it.
It's a pretty good looking car until you look at the running board.
Mhm.
Thick, right?
Yeah,
That's
details
nice.
have improved. That's true.
Have any of you guys ever been to Mather Tower in Chicago?
No, no,
Well,
I've not.
it's where the headquarters of Mather Refrigerated Car was.
Yep.
And it's the downtown, it's right downtown on the river. Big, tall, round tower.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just Art Deco like crazy. It's so beautiful inside. If you ever
Well,
get
if
a chance up there and see it, you should.
I ever get to downtown Chicago again, I'll have to look it up.
I'm sure everybody here has seen the old AHM Warps plastic covered hopper. Have you seen the Warps plastic building in
Yes.
Chicago?
No.
I have.
I got one of those cars though.
Brian, where is it?
Oh God, that was years and years ago, but let me pull up the picture. Warps image. Okay, so I want to share my screen. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
look at that.
So it's on West Thomas Street. I guess we know that. Yeah, I was driving through Chicago and I was like, what the heck? I thought it was a made up deal, but that's the same logo.
Wow.
Building across the street is interesting too.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, it's got some nice roof line up there for a flat roofed.
Leaf bubblegum.
Oh, and the part down by the street isn't bad looking either.
No, architecture is just a fascinating subject, building design, etc. So,
Yeah.
well, now I'm going to share the screen because I mentioned, let's see if I can get this open up.
There it is.
Ah,
Ah,
Oh, yeah.
That is a propane tank trailer. You can see how the wheels will go around to you back it around the tank. You got the change there and a hoist to lift it up. You drive it away and deposit it wherever it needs to go.
and a place for your hazmat marking.
Yep.
absolutely.
Yeah. And that's what most of the people around here I know so use. And here is, let's see if we can share again. You see those double tanks there?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be two of those tanks. Very typical what my grandparents had at their farmhouse. All the different houses, and they typically had scale gas. And when one of those tanks got empty, the guy would come and swap it out, but they would not run out of gas because they had the double tanks. And the cover would lift off, and that would be the connections and regulators and all that stuff up underneath there. So,
Doug, how long would that last a family?
I have no idea because I was about 7 years old
Okay.
at the time. No, I couldn't tell you. That's
And then they normally run off of, uh, the house was heated by coal or wood, something other than, that was basically the cooking stove and that kind of stuff. So it would last quite a while.
Hmm.
yeah. But if you didn't have electricity, you might have a propane powered refrigerator,
Yeah.
your cook stove. You might
Air
even have
conditioning?
a couple of gas lights in the house that was run off of that bottled gas. It
Yeah.
varied. So, but you're right. And then what I remember most, my grandparents lived in several different places, and they often had basically it was a heater sitting in the middle of the main room of the house type thing.
Yep.
A giant space heater, you might call it, and it was run off the bottled gas as well. So, you know, they might go through a bottle every couple weeks or once a month. I can't say for sure, but yeah, so.
You know, back in that era, Doug, I don't think I remember ever seeing any big tanks back then. That's about as big as I ever saw.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's like, you know, that one truck with the side load. Now, let's see if I can.
Wanna come up here, baby?
You know, you're forcing me to take my truck and make it into
Honey.
a vault truck.
Yeah.
I guess I'll have
Ah,
I guess I'm gonna have to open up another business.
no, no, no. Let's see if I can share one more photo here. Here is the this is in Eagle Grove, Iowa,
Oh,
Good, great picture.
and you can see, yeah, you've got there's the co-op propane tank, and that's
Come on.
I think this is 1946. The Bergman collection in Webster County, but you can see you know, here's the propane tanks. You can see the smaller tanks that would be delivered to a home by that trailer. Here's the filling station where they back the truck in and fill it up for delivery. And this would be a pressurized tank with pressurized controls. They'd fill this truck up with pressurized gas, and he would go out and refill the tanks that were sitting in the backyard.
Look at
Yeah,
that gun roll.
by using the bigger tanks, they didn't have to replace those vertical tanks every so often. So,
Yeah, do it all with a hose.
yeah,
Yep.
they were doing it all with high pressure hose fittings.
Check that gun roll. It's full of those.
And look
tanks.
at the load in the gun. The load in the gun is propane tanks. That's typically it'd be stacked up for delivery, which means this guy's doing a booming business. He's convincing his customers all to purchase or lease from him one of these 500-gallon or 1,000-gallon tank. I had several churches that's the parsonage was connected to the tank the church used. And every month I had to go and read the meter and figure out what I used and then write a check to the church for my share of that tank. But I also had to watch it, and if it was getting low, I had to call the delivery guy and say, you need to come refill the tank. So,
is that a Seaboard Coastline gun?
I think it's Erie, Lackawanna. No, Rock
Rock
Island.
Island,
Island, okay.
yeah,
I think that's a Diamond T truck.
it sure looks like it. But also notice the conveyor going back up, and is that an ice house back there?
That's what I think it is.
Yeah. Small coaling station. You can see the dump here for the coal hoppers to dump into that. This is a great photo with a lot of detail in it.
Oh, yeah.
You say that's Eagle Grove?
That's Eagle Grove, Iowa.
That's Northwestern then.
Yes.
I had relatives that lived up there.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I never got out. I was too little to go take pictures.
Mm-hmm. And being as this is a co-op truck, this very likely could be a red swipe on a white truck body. Or
Yeah.
so.
Had a lot of detail in that. That would make Mitch, he would love that picture, wouldn't he?
Oh yes. Yes.
He could
Now
find
here,
out.
let's see if I can. Now here is this is Hampton, Iowa. This is a propane dealer, 1996. You can see all the tanks they got sitting here and the trucks and
We're still
rail
looking at
service. And
Eagle-
there's
We still got the other picture.
Still got the other picture? Oh, what am I doing wrong? Let's close this one out. Oh, let's stop sharing. Well, what do you know? I'll get it up for you. Can you see it
Okay,
now?
yeah, yeah.
Vintage aerial. Yeah, here you can see the standpipes for unloading. And we probably got stationary tanks here and looks like a lot of stationary tanks there. And a stub end with a bumper at the end of the track. So, and this is where they would fill the trucks for delivery. So,
Probably propane and anhydrous ammonia in those tanks.
I just read about anhydrous ammonia after I mentioned it, and it turns out that it's being stolen quite a bit.
oh yes, yep. Most of the farmers having to
I-
lock their tanks up because it's used to make meth.
Yep, had
Geez.
no idea.
Oh yeah, I was as a workshop with a county sheriff almost 30 years ago, and they were having problems at that point, and you know the kids, you know, farmer would park a nurse tank in the field where he was getting ready to apply fertilizer the next day, go back the next morning, the tank would be half empty. The problem was the kids were just loading it into things like milk jugs and whatever, and had no idea to how serious that material was, and it would burn you. And so they often would show up in the hospital.
Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, meth addicts are not smart. I can tell you
Yeah.
that. You know,
We had a train wreck here in Bridgman when I was living in Bridgman, and one of the cars was an anhydrous ammonia car that leaked, and of course they had the police down there, and that guy actually died from it.
yep.
That stuff's bad stuff.
They had an ice cream plant in Houston that had an ammonia explosion years and years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, there, here again, I'm trying to share something and I'm not sure I got it where I want it.
there was at the intersection of US 59 and Interstate 610, an anhydrous ammonia tank truck went over the side of the interstate, dropped about 20 or 30 feet onto another part of the interchange and exploded. That killed a bunch of people.
So what am I doing here wrong? Are you seeing a Bruins LP gas company?
Nope, we're
Nope.
seeing all your folders.
You seeing all my folders? That's what I was afraid of. What am I doing?
The last screen had it in the upper right-hand corner. A tank that had that name on it.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to share pictures from that folder.
We may want to call the police. It looks like Brian is being attacked by a vicious cat.
I saw that.
Yeah. She likes to be all up in my grill.
Hmm.
Well, Doug is looking for that. My dad was a sophomore in high school in 1927. He bought a Model A tank truck and was selling kerosene to homes in Shadron
Yep.
for the next 3 years.
Oh,
And that's how he got through high school.
Nice.
Yeah, this is Sigourney, Iowa. This was an LP gas dealership that got started, I think, in the very late 30s, early 40s. You see their horizontal tank here. They got just a concrete block building. In the background is a Sinclair oil jobber, and that's their standard building with some vertical tanks. And I'm thinking this is served by the Milwaukee. There were two railroads in Sigourney, and I can't tell you which, but you can see there's several oil jobbers scattered right around here. But this is propane. I don't know if I can, let's see what we get. Oh, that's a shell. I got to get some stuff moved here. Here is the tank when they were moving it into place. It's for the Bruins LP gas. Look at the blocking they put in there to support it. Here it is being delivered on a Rock Island flat car. Now there's a load for you. Got the pressure valve here at one end up on top. The one in Indianola that was delivered was longer than this, and it was on 2 flat cars, and they literally set up 2 rails of blocking and rolled the tank into place. Got some. Now here's a color photo of the Bruins LP gas setup. You can see everything's pretty much painted silver. Here's their what they call nurse tanks that would go out to the local farmers and businesses. You can see the building, they got a bunch of those vertical tanks there to be delivered. And a chain link fence around it. So it's not a bad little, this would be make a nice little model on the layouts right near the tracks.
And check the delivery truck with the jib boom on the back.
Isn't that
Mhm.
something? Yeah. Yeah, I imagine he just backed up to one of these tanks and lifted it up with that boom and then just went down the road with it, just hanging and swinging.
Ah, now my truck looks better.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, now we're getting into some other stuff here. That's not what I was wanting to share. So,
Looks like we're getting close to time anyway.
yep. Well, I thought I'd add to Ron's presentation there a little
Well,
bit.
thanks very much, both of you. Thank you, Ron, and thank you, Doug. And thank you, Brian, for sharing the whatever that company was.
Warps plastic.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Good stuff.
Okay.
I'd like to share what I've been drinking while I've been watching all this.
Please do.
It's the 400 Club beer.
Oh, nice.
I don't know if you could see it so well, but it even has a map of the route on the back.
Fantastic.
And I found it in Omaha. Brad Williams, who's a photographer, told me about it. I got one of the last 4-packs, and I found out it's one of these one-time and done things. So, but it's called the 400 Club, and it's an IPA, and I'd rather have my Pabst Blue Ribbon. So
You're not disappointed that it's.
I'm not an IPA fan.
Somehow you'll manage to choke it down, Tim.
Yeah, I know, but I wanted to show that. I got one set aside for Mike Lenson, so.
Yeah,
I was gonna
perfect.
say those cans might be worth more if you leave them filled.
It might be, yeah.
Yeah, try selling a can of Billy beer these days.
I
Yeah.
think there's more interest in a 400.
Yeah.
So,
Well, thanks very much, guys. And we'll be back at it next week. If anybody wants to present, just let me know. And we'll have a nice Thursday evening. Thanks for showing up.
mhm.
Thank
Have a
you
good
for
one,
putting it
everyone.
on.
Bye, everybody.
All right.
Have a good weekend.